First, news around the Treasure State on Thursday. Governor Steve Bullock announced additional businesses would be allowed to resume operations as part of Phase 1 of reopening the state. Movie theaters, gyms, fitness studios, and museums will be allowed to open on Friday, May 15th. Gyms, including gym pools and fitness studios, can begin operating at half capacity. They will be required to increase cleaning and sanitizing of high-touch areas and equipment. Staff and patrons must practice social distancing and wear masks when possible. Movie theaters and museums that do not allow touching of exhibits can also reopen at 50% capacity with increased cleaning and sanitizing and social distancing requirements. Movie theaters should also increase cleaning times between each showing. To prepare you for any uncertainty ahead as we rebound from this pandemic, I sat down with a financial expert to talk about what business owners can do now to prepare for the unexpected.
Thank you so much, Jolene, for taking time with us to talk a little bit about issues facing small business owners here in Montana. We just wanted to get an economic development leader's opinion on some of the things that you're hearing from businesses in the Golden Triangle and beyond. So first of all, if we wouldn't, or if you don't mind, if we could start with updates on the payroll or for the Paycheck Protection Act and the EIDL loan program. I know those are the two biggest loans on people's minds right now.
They are, and the Paycheck Protection Program actually has funding left. We were very concerned, as was the SBA, that it would be used up immediately, but there's still funding available. So small businesses, the biggest concerns we're hearing in regards to the Paycheck Protection Program right now are that they didn't get in the first round, or they think they're ineligible, or sole proprietors think they're ineligible. And all of that's just not true. There is plenty of money available now. Number one is for a small business owner to call their bank. These Paycheck Protection Program loans are done through your banker. So they call the bank and fill out the application. There's some excellent information on sba.gov, including a sample of the application that you'll need, so that before you call your banker, you can look at that. That'll give you an idea of all the information that you should have at the ready. It's a very simple application. That's the second concern. In fact, I fielded 2 phone calls yesterday from small businesses that were wondering, is it worth their time? They're very busy right now, which is great, and they wanted to know if it was worth their time to apply. And my advice to them was that it's definitely worth your time to apply. It'll take you probably an hour to apply for the loan through your bank, and then that funding, if it's utilized on acceptable paycheck and payroll related expenses, which are all outlined at sba.gov, that can be forgivable. So it is definitely worth your time, because it's kind of like a grant to help you pay to keep your business going. Sole proprietors are eligible for that as well. So they should definitely call your banker. Our banks and credit union partners are working very diligently to get those loans made. And there are credit unions in our region that are now accepted and doing these loans. So it is bank and credit unions.
Okay, and one thing that we want to talk a little bit about too is that gap in time when small business owners apply for these kind of funds, and then when they actually receive those to be able to disperse. Are there resources available for people in kind of a standstill right now?
There are, and that's a good question. And that's what we're seeing with the EIDL loan. A lot of people, I applied for the EIDL loan and now they're just waiting. The advance on the EIDL will just appear in your bank account. You probably won't get a notification, it'll just appear. So watch your bank account if you did apply. But there's the gap that you're talking about, Keely, is that longer term gap between the advance, the PPP, and then getting that full EIDL loan. The PPP is pretty instantaneous. Your bank applies, you're approved, you get the money, but that's for payroll. What about working capital? That's the gap. So the resources to fill that gap, approved SBA Express lenders, which most banks in our region are able to do a SBA bridge loan. And that Express Bridge Loan is a product created to fill that gap, and it's through SBA. So again, talk to your banker.
We've talked about through many of our interviews with economic development leaders is having a solid financial team in place. Many teams or many businesses maybe didn't have that team lined up before this, and it would be a good idea to really start getting those resources together so they have as solid of a
Yeah.
start as possible.
Very much so. And there are a lot of businesses that haven't needed to have that support team in the past. And now they're recognizing that if they would have at least had it put together, they could access these tools and resources quickly. Whereas there's a lag time when you're trying to build new relationships. We are highly recommending that businesses take this time to step back. We've put together a resiliency guide, and it's on our website, free download for you to just some helpful tips that you can get in there and look at. Okay, let's put together your bankers, your accountants, your lawyers, your business advisors, your insurance agents. Make sure that you have that team at the ready and that you're talking to them frequently and letting them know, hey, I'm still out here. This is what I'm doing. This is the type of help I need. And build those long-term relationships. Business advisors, there's so many business advisors across our region, and a lot of free business advisors. The Small Business Development Center, the SBDC that GFDA houses, and similar centers across the region and state are here. We are trained. This is what we do. We consult businesses every day. We also, though, have access to different tools and resources that can help your business that you might not have access to. Some industry data that's quite expensive to purchase, but through the power of collective purchasing with SBDC centers, we're able to get those subscriptions and get you data that will help you make informed business decisions.
Thank you so much, Jolene Schaupper, Great Falls Development Authority in Great Falls, for joining us. As always, you can check out our websites and the Rebound Montana for all the latest information, including this interview with Jolene and economic development resources from Great Falls Development Authority. Jolene, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Keely. I appreciate it.
And exciting news for those with a second source of income. Funding from the CARES Act now allows people who have non-traditional or gig jobs to receive unemployment benefits. Up until recently, these workers were not able to file for unemployment benefits for their non-traditional jobs, but now gig workers are eligible for unemployment benefits through the CARES Act. All gig workers have to do is go online and file an application. Officials say whether you've been denied before or maybe you haven't applied at all yet, now is your opportunity to get unemployment benefits as a gig worker. And staying with the CARES Act, help is on its way to small business owners, nonprofits, cooperatives, and individuals across the Treasure State. Applications for the federal aid opened online at 8 a.m. Thursday morning. This is just the first round of funding from the federal level. Areas that will receive the $123 million include agriculture, public health, food banks, and business grants. Economic development leaders say business owners and individuals should embrace this opportunity even if they've applied for other loans and grants. Here are some items that you'll want to have on hand when you apply online, those being your tax ID number, proof of business registration, description of how the grant will be spent, and how COVID-19 has impacted business operations. For homeowners and renters applying for aid, Schaupper or economic development leaders say to have your bank account information on hand and some type of verification of job or income loss. We do have a link to the application portal on our websites. And the governor's office announced 10 new programs last week to help distribute federal CARES Act money to Montana families and businesses. $50 million will be available for emergency housing. MTN's Andy Curtis sat down with Cheryl Cohen, Montana Housing Operations Manager, to get some tips for families seeking help with their rent or mortgage payments.
Hey, welcome everybody. My name's Andy Curtis with the Montana Television Network. We're here in Helena out of KTVH, the NBC station. And we are chatting this morning with Cheryl Cohen, who is the operations manager for Montana Housing. And this morning, bright and early at 8 o'clock, Governor Bullock announced yesterday $123 million available for emergency grants. And at 8 o'clock this morning, the Montana Emergency Housing Assistance Program went into effect. So we figure who better to talk about that than Cheryl. And Cheryl, how's it going this morning?
You know, we're all staying pretty busy. We're seeing a pretty high volume of applications. So that's really demonstrating the need for these programs. So we're, working through some minor issues that, are expected when you're rolling out big programs. But we're moving full steam ahead. And our goal is to just help get these relief dollars out to families as quickly as possible.
Now, for people who are just hearing about this for the first time, do you mind giving us a real basic rundown of what this program is and what it offers to people?
Sure. So the goals of the Emergency Housing Assistance Program are to provide relief for Montanans who are experiencing challenges, financial challenges due directly to the COVID emergency, to pay for their housing costs. So this could be rent, mortgage payment, or hazard insurance payment if they pay it directly and it's not part of their escrow with their mortgage servicer. So there are some income limits that apply to the program. Depending on family size, it's between $75,000 and $125,000 per year. There's also expectation that families will contribute a fair share of their income toward their housing costs if they're able and have some income. So we'll be calculating 30% of the household's current gross monthly income toward their housing costs, and the program will pay the difference between that and their monthly housing costs up to $2,000 a month.
Now, does this program add to any existing programs that you guys already had pre-COVID-19, or is it something that can only be used if you're suffering from any of the issues from the pandemic?
So there is some eligibility limitations. If you're already receiving other rental housing assistance, like a housing choice voucher, commonly noted as a Section 8 voucher, or emergency shelter grant, or some other state or federal rental assistance program, you won't be eligible for this program because you're already paying 30% of your income for rent. So this is really targeted toward Montanans who've had some substantial loss of income. It could be from job layoff or reduced hours, or a requirement to stay at home because of kids that are out of school or daycare's closed. So any of those situations, also if they've been required to quarantine due to a diagnosis themselves. So anytime there's the nexus between the COVID emergency and the financial hardship that's creating a challenge paying their housing costs, that's who this program is targeted for. And I'd also like to add real quick, for more homeowners, there's been forbearance programs for homeowners already in effect. And homeowners that are in a forbearance program or seeking forbearance are still eligible to apply for this program. And the goal then is that they could apply and use the assistance funds under this program to help them get current. So the initial payments that will be going out could include, if they're delinquent back to April, May, and maybe even June rent if they're still having a challenge. So we want to help people get caught up because we know the stress of having that hang over you is really difficult for families. Just to clarify, if they're in a forbearance program with their mortgage servicer, a lot of the federal guidelines have come down depending on the type of mortgage you have. If it's federally backed, there has been a prohibition on mortgage servicers initiating a foreclosure process during this time. And so if you're in a forbearance or otherwise unable to pay, do feel free to put in an application and we'll try to work with your mortgage servicer.
And do you have any kind of tips for people getting all their ducks in a row before going into this? Because I've got to imagine it sure sounds like it requires a lot of paperwork ahead of time.
Before people apply or during the application process, they'll see that they'll be required to provide some sort of supporting documentation demonstrating their loss of income. So this could be pay stubs or a letter from an employer or a letter from a daycare about the closure. So think through what documentation you may need to demonstrate how you've had that financial impact due to COVID. So that's one big piece that they should have prepared as an applicant. The other crucial component is that they'll be asked to provide the contact information for their landlord, mortgage servicer, or their hazard insurance company. And it's critical that they include the correct contact information, including an email address, because we'll need some details from the third party in order to make the payment on the applicant's behalf to that third party. And so that can cause some time delays if the appropriate contact information isn't provided. So oftentimes people with large mortgage service companies, it may be out of state, they'll have a general customer service email. It might expedite the process for the applicant to call their mortgage servicer and clarify in advance which email that they should use so we can get the request of information to the right place from the get-go.
So it sounds to me like just maybe not having the right contact information is one of the main hurdles that people seem to be running into.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to strive to review all completed applications as soon as possible. but getting that verification from the payment recipient, their W-9, their information that they need, is really critical for us being able to make the payment. So anything that the applicant can do to help us out and direct us to the right place will make it go a lot faster.
Any other kind of tips that you would give somebody maybe hearing about this for the first time and making sure that they have everything ready to go by the time they send in the information to you, other than contact information?
I think if they could just be patient, we're going to be processing a lot of applications. Our application reviewers might have follow-up questions. We know that families are experiencing a lot of stress right now, and we're not trying to add additional, bureaucratic elements to that process. We're just trying to perform our due diligence and help everyone as quickly as we can. So patience and understanding and being responsive to additional information requests.
Is there a time frame that you're telling people to expect any kind of response back from you guys, or any kind of response as far as financially?
We're going to strive to review all complete applications within 5 business days. That's a pretty heavy lift. We're bringing on a lot of reviewers from various state departments to help us process that. And then there'll be some time also to process the payment after that. We really strongly encourage the third parties to accept payment by electronic fund transfer. Mm-hmm. That'll make the process a lot faster than issuing a regular check. So if at all possible, that would help speed up the process too.
And Cheryl, is there anything that maybe you wanted to talk about that I missed? Any other information you'd like to get out there to people?
I think that covers it. Again, we just want to ask all of the applicants for their patience. We know that families are suffering right now, and we want to provide assistance as quickly as we can. So those are our goals, and we hope that everyone is understanding. And we've just got to come together. I think, like the governor says, Montana is a really small town, essentially, and so we want to help our neighbors.
Absolutely. And just one more time to really drive the nail home, if we could hear the contact information, email, phone number, all those things. We'll put them up on the bottom of the screen too, but just to make sure everybody knows them.
Great. So if you have technical or troubleshooting questions with the application process, that's support@submittable.com. If you have program questions about the Emergency Housing Assistance Program, or you need an accommodation in order to complete an application, 406-841-2840. Or you can go to our website and select the Contact Us page, and that'll send us an email, and we'll respond to that as quickly as we can.
Okay, thanks a lot. And if anybody watching right now wants to join the conversation, has anything that they wanted to ask us about this particular situation and subject, or communicate on the Rebound Montana, you head on over to our Facebook page, the Rebound Montana Facebook community page to be exact. You can ask us questions there, and hopefully we'll get you some answers. So check that out. Cheryl, thank you for talking with us this morning. I hope everything continues to go smoothly for you for the rest of the day, and I hope you stay safe.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And that was MTN's Andy Curtis and Cheryl Cohen, Montana Housing Operations Manager. Well, Northwestern Energy officials say they've been working hard to keep the lights on for everyone as Montanans rebound from the pandemic. The first of the month may bring worries for those hit hard by economic restrictions. Officials say they're here to help lighten the load for Montanans with no way to pay their energy bills this month. Northwestern Energy voluntarily suspended disconnections for non-payment in mid-March and have customer representatives available to help set up budget billing and payment plans for those unable to pay now that may face a larger payment down the road.
We are part of this community. We want to help, and to please call us right away. Our customer service representatives can help, as well as provide contact information for resources.
On April 1st, Northwestern Energy announced $300,000 in local grants and aid to small businesses and individuals. Employees' donations to Energy Share Montana are also being matched by the company right now. Those with questions about their energy bill can call the number on your screen. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and local organizations are encouraging everyone to take time for self-care. The Healthy Communities Coalition of Lewis and Clark County have compiled a mental and social well-being resource guide for the community or communities across the state. The guide includes direct links to many mental health resources such as hotlines, addiction recovery, parenting resources, and how to stay happy and healthy during the pandemic. Loneliness and isolation have been health issues in Montana Montana, COVID-19 just made it more prevalent. The Healthy Communities Coalition says it's vitally important for people to take care of themselves physically, socially, and emotionally.
Mental health, really impacts overall health and especially chronic disease. But I think oftentimes it's one of the last things that is addressed.
The Mental and Social Wellbeing Resource Guide is a living document that will be continually updated with additional resources as they become available. And the COVID-19 pandemic has already proven to be a defining moment in history. The Montana Historical Society is working to make sure Montana stories are preserved for the records. On the Historical Society's website, there are 2 surveys aimed at capturing the Montana perspective, one for adults and the other for students. People are able to share written stories or submit photos, videos, poems, and other artwork when taking the survey. The Historical Society is hoping people share both the positives and the frustrations and heartaches of living during this pandemic. State Archivist Jody Foley says what is collected will be a huge benefit to future historians and Montana residents.
And that's very much what we were trying to do, is to gather that sort of raw data and get it at a time when it's fresh in people's minds and they have a sense of really how they feel.
People are asked to fill out the survey now and then again in a few months to reflect on the changes in their own lives. Well, as COVID-19 has swept across the nation, sporting events and seasons of all sports have been postponed or canceled. On Thursday, MTN added another Montana favorite to that list. The Missoula Marathon race director announced the race has officially been called off. Over the past 14 years, the race has gained national popularity. In 2009, it was named the #1 marathon in the country by Runner's World magazine. Beginning Monday, May 25th, organizers will accept new registrations from runners and walkers who want to take part in the virtual races. And while the Missoula Marathon may be canceled, it's still a great time to get outdoors and practice your social distancing just in time for the holiday. The Lewis and Clark Helena National Forest is hoping to reopen developed campgrounds by Memorial Day weekend. In addition, rental facilities like cabins will begin a phased reopening after May 15 based on availability and facility conditions. Trails and trailheads remain open, but the Forest Service is asking everyone to continue practicing social distancing and guidelines for staying safe when outdoors, including being bear aware and properly extinguishing any campfires. And next on the Rebound Montana, MTN talked with a chemical expert in Great Falls about what Montana residents need to be aware of when they're out in public or out enjoying Mother Nature's beauty. We head to Eagle Falls Golf Course and check in with General Manager Jeff Stange for that story. You have been working with Dennis to make sure that your newly renovated space is ready to go for the public and is safe. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. We have protocols in place that we're sanitizing our tables before and after every guest is using it. Condiment bottles are wiped down after every guest uses it. All the things are recommended by the CDC and the Cascade Health Department. Been in great communications with them. They've given us a lot of great ideas. And talking with Dennis, and hand sanitizers and all that, and working with him to make sure we have all the equipment and the safety supplies. So we need to make sure our guests have a great experience, but also a very safe experience.
And I know that National Laundry, in response to some shortages, has actually started creating their own products to sell, including some cleaning wipes, some hand sanitizer stands. Eagle Falls Golf Course will be implementing those as well here, which is great that a local company like National Laundry can respond to something that the community needs. Dennis, let's talk a little bit about best practices. We have some cleaning products here in front of us, and we're at a golf course right now, but campgrounds are going to be opening soon, other outdoor recreation areas as well. People are starting to go outside, and we just want to make sure that people are staying safe, no matter if you're out golfing, no matter if you're camping, maybe some best practices that they can implement.
Oh, well, thank you. And first of all, just like when we're opening up all these places like Eagle Falls and Anaconda Golf Course, is the first thing is bring a good attitude. This is kind of a tough time and we're all trying to figure it out, but there's some new normals that are going to be around for quite a while. These masks really do work. So get your mask, okay? Wear them if you're around people. Do you need to wear it in the car when you're driving? No, not necessarily. But when you're around other people, the masks are really important. gloves, disposable gloves, which we also have at National Laundry. Try to take those around when you're going around public areas and shopping and grocery stores and whatnot. My new normal is wipes in a bag. So if I take my grandkids or my kids and we're going to the park, which is now just opening up outside, I'm going to wipe that down before my kids are going to play on the swings or whatever. But this also is great to take for like your campgrounds. I'll have this in my golf bag, as a matter of fact. Have a little common sense. And I have my gloves, I have my wipes, I have, just 6 foot, that social distancing, and just be positive, because it's just a lot of anger out there and a lot of confusion and a lot of panic. So stay safe.
And while some businesses like Eagle Falls have stayed open through the pandemic, many employees went back to work this week for phase 1 of Montana's reopening, including some who might not be considered essential but are still very important to the businesses that employ them. MTN's Tom Wiley shows us one example.
It's Kate Harilla's first day back at work after a 47-day furlough, and she's a little nervous.
It's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, but I'm also really happy to be able to come back and see everybody.
Thank you.
She greets her coworkers, grabs her uniform, and begins her shift.
All of the mermaids are really happy to just be able to get back into the water, and being the first one here to greet all the patrons, I'm super proud, and I'm glad that Sandy picked me for it.
Mermaids are back in the pool at the legendary O'Hare Motor Inn Sip and Dip Lounge, but that wasn't a sure thing earlier this week after some mixed messages from the Cascade County Health Department and the governor's office on what constitutes a public pool.
One wanted us to be allowed to get back in the water, and then another one was just like, maybe not yet, and our boss kind of petitioned it. Said, we'll follow the rules, we'll put in all these guidelines.
And when they did finally get the all clear, that paved the way for 6 mermaids to go back to work.
Oh, my first reaction was number 1, yay! I think I put like 3 exclamation points and a happy face, and then it was just like, okay, so what are we doing? When are we getting back in? What's it gonna look like?
But it's not business as usual quite yet. Capacity in the lounge is limited and bar seating is prohibited during the first phase of reopening. There's no complaints from Harilla and the rest of the Sip and Dip staff as they dive in to the new normal.
So it'll be great to have full staff back, everybody just kind of back to normal. I know we gotta get there the right way, but I think when everybody's back and we're having a good time, it'll be worth it.
Tom Wiley, MTN News.
And that's all the time we have on this morning's The Rebound Montana. Before we go, MTN has launched the Rebound Montana Facebook group, a statewide resource to help keep you and your family informed and help you navigate these uncertain times due to the coronavirus pandemic. We'll also keep you updated about how well relief programs are working and how Montana businesses are stepping up. Thank you for joining us here this morning on The Rebound Montana. Have a great rest of your Sunday.